All right, we're live once again. I did call the jail and asked to have Mr. Irwin brought up. Stoney Summy is here with me in the courtroom, and so he's only about the third person that's been in here in the last 10 months. I'll be right back. Good morning, Mr. Barnes.
Good morning.
Tim George is joining us. We have everybody but the defendant. Good morning, Mr. George.
Morning, Your Honor.
Stoney, why don't you have a seat over here at the council table? Here? That's fine. We're waiting for the defendant. While we do wait for him, let's talk about what we got going on here. We have a sentencing in the methamphetamine case at 11. We have a PV on the domestic violence case set for 10:30, and we have the driving suspended case, which is Three River City Ordinance, which is set for pretrial here this morning. Mr. Irwin's been in custody now for
14 days.
14 days at this juncture. John, is there any offer in the driving suspended case?
No, Your Honor. He got a ticket for driving suspended and defective inoperable lights. Verbal warning for no insurance, no registration, failed to maintain lane improper turning crossing the fog lines. So they charged him with just a small portion of what he was doing.
Well, as a practical matter, he's been in custody now for 14 days. Our first order of business, Tim, is the probation violation on the domestic violence charge. Daniel Frazine is here. Do you envision we're going to have an actual hearing on that?
I would like to talk to him real briefly on that. We spoke generally this morning. I'd just like to run it by him real quick.
All right. Well, first of all, I have to wait for them to bring him in. I called Sergeant Heath and asked if he'd be brought up in case they missed it. He's not here yet. I have some civil litigants in a breakout room, and I'm not sure I can set up a second breakout room while the first one is in place. Oops. Dan, don't join the breakout room. I was seeing if I could set up a second room and I couldn't, so don't join it. You'll be in the middle of a civil discovery hearing. Then, Debbie, we then have several other cases to address this morning. We have Kayla Smith, who is also in custody. We have Mandy Allen, who I'm not sure is going to show up. We have Josh Salter, and I think Stoney Summy also has some input on that case. And then we have Mitchell Salmon. So we have a lot to do, and it would help if we could start this case in a timely manner. Deborah, do you know if they made an arrest in that shooting case yet?
I'm not aware.
Somebody's got the Polycom room because they've given us the arraignment room, but that's sufficient. Good morning, Mr. Irwin.
Good morning.
Judge Middleton. This is the time and date for several hearings regarding Matthew Duane Irwin. File 192573 is a domestic violence case. Daniel Frazine is the defendant's probation agent. This case goes back quite some time, and we had a difficult probation. We were dealing with it in October of 20 and then again here in April of 2021. That's set for a probation violation hearing at 10:30 this morning. Mr. Timothy George, your attorney, is here. Then there's a pretrial on the Three Rivers driving suspended case. Mr. John Barnes, the Three Rivers City Attorney, is here. There is no plea offer in that case. He feels enough other charges were foregone for that one. And then we have sentencing on a use of methamphetamine case at 11. We'll do all this at once if we can. Mr. George indicated that he'd like to speak to you separately in a breakout room. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to close the breakout room that I presently have going. And I may have to reopen it, but I've got to set up a separate room for you.
Your Honor,
So, yes?
would it be easier if I were to simply call the jail?
No, I'll facilitate this.
Okay.
You're here, he's here, we're here. I didn't have the foresight to open 2 breakout rooms. I didn't think that this hearing would take that long. And as you know, it takes me 60 seconds to close the room. We decided if I added all these 60 seconds up, I'd have an extra day of my life while I waited 60 seconds for this breakout room to close every time.
Hopefully it'd be a day in July and not in February.
Yeah, it'd be February 3rd or something.
Right.
Ms. Salisbury, I apologize. I had to close the breakout room because I need to set up another room for criminal matters. Are you finished yet, or you need me to put you back in another room, back in the space?
Nope, Your Honor, I can there so that you can use it. We've completed. I'm just gonna follow up with a phone call with Mr. and Mr. Myers.
Okay.
All right, I can put you back in another space if you need more time, but I didn't open 2 rooms, so I need to close this one. So
Oh.
I can make 2 rooms and put you back in one to finish up.
Oh, that would be great. I just need like 2 more minutes.
All right, well, let me get started here.
Thank you.
I'm not the greatest technical wizard. I have to back up and start from scratch. All right, let's try this again. Mr. and Mrs. Myers, I'll put you back with Ms. Salisbury.
Thank you.
And then assign Tim George and the arraignment room. All right, you're back to it. John, I don't know if I need to make you stick around for this. You're certainly welcome to. You've made your position clear. There's no offer other than that charge. We'll see what he wants to do. My hope was we could resolve everything all at once here this morning.
Okay, just call me if you need me.
All right, my feeling is 14 days, credit 14 days on the driving suspended. I haven't related that to him, but we've got these other more lengthy sentences to deal with, so I don't
That
want to
would
make...
work. That would
All
work
right.
just fine.
I'll send you an email if we need further help, but I know you got other business to attend to.
All right, well, I'm here at the office, so just either that or call, the office phone, and we'll jump back in.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So how's this so far, Stoney? Pretty exciting?
Oh, this is a blast. Yeah.
Well, once we get rolling, it will be a little better. Do you do Zoom at all from your office?
I do. I was having a little technical difficulty this morning, so.
We could have had you dial in and you could have done it right from your desk, but you're here and that's helpful. I appreciate your making the effort. How do you like Dan's office? Pretty Spartan, don't you think?
It is, yeah, it's pretty fancy.
He has different versions. He has a panel library, and we've gone with that version, which is uniform.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't know if you saw, Dan, some Ohio congressman or state representative had his office background, but he was driving his car. And it was, which wouldn't have been so bad, but the discussion that he was at was about distracted
driving.
So,
Yeah, I think he got Ass Hat of the Week award.
yeah, so, and he says that it was no different than having a discussion, although I can't talk on the phone when I'm driving. I don't have hands-free and I don't like to do it, but, I guess. All right, Tim is back. The problem, darn it, I don't know if I can close one room. She said she needed 2 more minutes. I'm gonna close that room again. She'll get 1 additional minute. But I don't think the defendant has the wherewithal to click back in from the arraignment room. I'm sorry, Ms. Salisbury, I had to close the room again to bring the other parties back in, so I had to close both rooms. Do you need more time?
I do not, Your Honor. Both defendants have complied, so we can conclude today's discovery.
All right, Mr. and Mrs. Myers, you're free to go. And thank you, Ms. Salisbury. Sorry for the technical jumping around.
That's
All
all right. I
right.
appreciate it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Next time, thank you. Now, he's got 7 more seconds. Let me put some notes in that file. All right, that completes the discovery in the civil case 201148GC. We're now back and we're segued into criminal matters. Mr. Matthew Irwin is here. He's been in jail now for 13 days. He's present. He's got 3 separate cases pending, and his attorney Tim George is here with us. Prosecuting attorney Deborah Davis is also present, and his probation officer Dan Frazine. Tim, what's our status here this morning?
Your Honor, I did have the opportunity to go over what the recommendation is of Mr. Frazine on the domestic violence case. Based on that, Mr. Irwin will acknowledge no contact after the initial meeting on the probation. And I believe it is also his intent to enter a plea to the Three Rivers charge. Obviously, we'd be requesting time served on that.
All right, well, let's start with that one. Matthew, you got a ticket in Three Rivers on October 20th of last year for driving with a suspended license. There were some other things, no valid plate, insurance, they didn't charge any of that. Driving suspended is a misdemeanor. It's punishable by up to 93 days in jail and a fine of up to $500. Carries 2 points and it requires your license be suspended. I represented to Mr. Barnes that my intention was to give 14 days jail credit, 14 days on that charge concurrent with the other charges if you plead to that charge. Do you understand the plea offer?
Yes, sir, I do.
Other than that, did anyone promise you anything to get you to plead to this?
No, sir.
Do you understand that if you plead to this charge, you'll be giving up your right to have a trial in front of a judge or jury? There will be no trial. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir, I do understand.
If you had a trial, you'd have the right to be represented by an attorney. Mr. George is here with you on all offenses, but you could also hire an attorney of your own choosing if you wish. If you had a trial, you'd have the right to have any of the witnesses for or against you subpoenaed to come to court so they could be questioned under oath, and you would have the right to take the witness stand and testify on your own behalf. But you don't have to, because you have a right not to testify. And if you did not wish to testify, the judge or jury could not hold your silence against you. It's not like they're having a party out there.
Yes, sir, there seems to be an issue out in the jail, yes, sir.
Anyway, do you understand you're giving up all of those rights?
Yes, sir, I understand.
Were you driving a car in Three Rivers on October 20th?
Yes, sir, I was.
Where were you going? Do you remember?
I was actually headed southbound on Constantine Street, simply heading to the gas station.
And was your license suspended at that time?
It was suspended, not to my knowledge, but it was suspended, yes, sir.
All right, 14 days credit, 14 days concurrent with 202618 and 192573. I'll waive the fines and costs. So that takes care of that traffic matter. And the reason it was so old is because we sort of lost track of you.
Yes, sir. Now, does that put my driving privileges back in good standing, or?
No, you probably
that
got a
separate?
period of suspension that you're going to have to wait out.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Now, in the old days, a use of methamphetamine would suspend your license for 30 days and restrict it for 5 months. But they've lifted that requirement. Even though this crime precedes the change in the law, my understanding is that the time of sentence is what applies, so I won't have to suspend your license for the meth charge, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yes, sir.
Our next order of business is the probation violation. You did a very poor job on probation in this case, and Daniel Frazine is your probation officer. He's filed a probation violation petition alleging that you failed to report, failed to comply with treatment, failed to pay, and failed to really do much. You have a right to have a hearing, a probation violation hearing, where it must be established beyond a preponderance of the evidence that you violated the probation. Mr. George would be here to represent you at that hearing, and if you wish. You also can waive that right and simply admit to the probation violation. Understand?
Yes, sir, I do.
And you acknowledge that you failed to complete the treatment, failed to pay, and failed to report?
Yes, sir, I acknowledge that.
All right. Daniel, what's your recommendation?
Just doing the deferred days and being done with it. Loss of deferral.
Which was 11 days.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. George, is that acceptable?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Davis, you have any input on this one?
Due to the meth charge that we're going to deal with shortly, I don't have any objection or input on this particular sentence.
All right. $14 days credit, 14 days, 0 fines and costs, probation revoked, loss of deferral. So this will appear on your record. Will affect your ability to use or possess a firearm. Concurrent with the driving suspended charge. All right, that takes care of the probation violation. I'm sorry that was such an abject failure, but we didn't accomplish very much. Because of methamphetamine. Case that remains is file 202618, People versus Matthew D. Irwin. He was charged with possession of a controlled substance, and he pled to use of methamphetamine, and the matter was set for sentencing today. Daniel is here. Daniel has quite a bit of knowledge about Mr. Irwin. I've known Mr. Irwin since he was about a freshman in high school. He was in the school at the same time my kids were. Also here is Mr. Stoney Summery, who's our veterans administrator and advocate here in St. Joe County, has worked with Mr. Irwin, as Mr. Irwin is a veteran. Daniel, we'll start with you, and then we'll hear from Tim and Debbie and Stoney. We were frustrated with the earlier probation. My sense is Matthew's got a methamphetamine problem that he's not really addressing. What's your take here?
Yes, and I'm not sure it's just meth, but it's definitely a drug or substance use issue. And the biggest concern I had was whenever we did talk to him, and there never seems to be an acknowledgement of a drug problem, and there was never an acceptance of responsibility, which is obviously concerning. It's hard to help someone.
Well, there were opioid issues as well.
I'm not exactly sure. Stoney might have more input on that.
All right. Tim, what's your thought here?
Your Honor, in speaking with my client, I know we had a little bit of a hiccup trying to get to this point, but I think he reports to me that he's starting to get to a point now where he has more stable housing. We talked about, what the options were that the court had in front of it today. My client would be 7411 eligible. He would ask the court to consider that. I think that this period of time has been a timeout for him, allowed him to get his head on straight. He says that he would like to give a probation a chance. So, my sense is if we're starting to get into that, and as Your Honor has seen, we're starting to get into that cycle where this could snowball out of control. Clearly, I think it would be a better use of the court's resources and the taxpayers' resources to try to address that issue so we're not dealing with that going forward. So I think that a probation with a hefty chunk of jail deferred over his head, and he would understand what the terms were. And I said to him today, if we come back in a month and we're having the same issues that we had on the domestic violence case, you understand that the judge has the balance of a year to play with. And he understood that. So I think that giving him the opportunity and hopefully giving him the skills that he needs to address any issues that are there would be in the best interest of both my client and the court. And we would ask that you sentence him to a term of probation. Thank you.
Well, he's got skills. Mr. Irwin is a very intelligent young man. And sometimes he uses that intelligence to weasel out of what he's really supposed to be doing. Stoney Summy has taken time out of his morning to come here. I'm going to zoom back a little bit and see if we can get in the feed here. Mr. Summy, what's your thought here?
Mr. Irwin would be eligible for an outpatient treatment program through the VA. It would be through the vet center. He would have to complete that before he would be eligible for an inpatient treatment program, which I believe is probably overdue. Maybe not just, there may be more than just a substance abuse issue. I believe there may be more of a adjustment from the military to civilian life issue as well. And that would be something that I could pursue, but he would be required through the VA to complete a outpatient program prior to doing an inpatient treatment program.
I have some concerns. Daniel mentioned that you found a housing option for Mr. Irwin in some of the veterans' traditional housing, and he trashed it. What can you tell me about that?
Mr. Irwin was staying at one of our transition houses in Three Rivers, and it was very, very disappointing when I went there to see the condition of the place. Mr. Irwin was supposed to also be doing some outpatient treatment program through the vet center. He never made any of the appointments. Just kind of blew that part off, which is a requirement of the transition housing program. But we offered to help him with his permanent place, but that went south as well.
Well, let me ask this, Mr. Irwin, before I hear from Ms. Davis. If I let you out of jail, where will you go? We did an eviction, you were sort of homeless, you got transitional veterans housing, you didn't take advantage of that, in fact abused it. If I let you out of jail, are you just going to be standing on the curb here in Centerville, or have you got somewhere to go?
No, sir. I do have permanent housing already been established.
Where is that?
It's on 1218 4th Street in Three Rivers, sir.
All right, who lives there?
A good family friend of mine that has allowed me to stay since before. Name? Jennifer Green.
Jennifer Dean?
Green, sir.
Okay. Ms. Davis, what's your thought here?
Well, Your Honor, I'm glad that Stoney was here today because after the last hearing, I did talk with him and a lot of things were concerning about Mr. Irwin's behavior while he's been on bond for the DV case and then on probation for the DV case and then on bond for this substance abuse case. A couple of things that I want to point out are that he failed to appear multiple times for court, in addition to the abysmal failure of his DV probation. And obviously, there was the drug use while on that probation. If he would have tried to avail himself more earnestly of the VA programs for substance abuse, I would probably feel more compassionate toward the situation. But from what Mr. Summy has provided, it wasn't just one transition apartment or house that he destroyed. There were two of them. And that is unfortunately reflective of the entire program for Mr. Summy and affects the ability for him to place other veterans in these other homes. So that, and there's a note in the file that just prior to him entering his plea on the DV, the victim in that case, he has a child together with her, asked to have the bond conditions removed so that he could attend a 6-hour surgery for this child. But the notes before that were he's not seeing the child, he's not paying child support. Obviously, if his child can't keep him sober or give him some motivation, I don't know what else is going to. And if he's not going to benefit from the services, the punishment is you sit in jail, and the timeout that he's had of 14 days is probably not enough to really get him in the right mindset. If he were being released to some sort of an inpatient treatment, that would be, I guess, ideal. But as one of the probation conditions, if you're going to place him on a 7411 probation, it appears that he doesn't have the strength to do it on his own without something forcing him into it. But again, if you're forcing somebody into treatment, are they there for the right reasons? Are they going to benefit from it? Or are we just chasing ourselves around and he's going to sign out and go hurt somebody or hurt himself? So I'd ask the court to consider a more significant period of jail time. And then if the court is to allow some sort of a probation or 7411 probation, that it'd be very strict as far as the testing and reporting and treatment portions of it. Thank you.
Well, you raise a fundamental question. We force people into treatment all the time. And I don't know how effective it is either, particularly for methamphetamine. Matthew, you've been listening to what everybody else had to say about this. What would you like me to know?
I know that as far as the child that I do have with the other person that I have the domestic violence case in, my child support is current and up to date, paid in full. I've had multiple conversations with her, and our relationship, as far as it is right now, is on basically a phone basis. She started to go through school and stuff like that, so it's kind of hit or miss in order for us to have contact. So for her to say what she had said is kind of beside me, considering the conversations I've had with her since then. I don't feel like I have totally negated any chance out there to get help. I think that the probation is a good option for me. I need to know that I didn't lose contact with anybody throughout this situation. I understand with the eviction and then having to find my own housing myself was a little bit of a hiccup in being able to have good correspondence with Mr. Frazine as long as with Stoney. And then along with that, the apartment that I did have that Stoney got me into after the transition housing was left in good standing and was not trashed, as Miss Davis had stated. So I'm here with everything on the table.
Your
Your
Honor,
Honor, may I add
ahead,
one
Pat.
thing? The person that he says that is his permanent housing has an open warrant for possession of cocaine and has prior meth charges. I don't think that that's an appropriate house for him to be at.
Stoney, were there 2 units that were trashed or just one?
One was the St. Joe County Veteran Transition House. The second one was the apartment that we helped him rent in his own name.
All right, so
But
the
he-
transition house was the one on M86,
Yes, Your Honor.
and was trashed?
Yes, Your Honor.
What can you tell us about that, Matthew?
It still baffles me, sir. When I had left that residence, it was not in the state that Stoney has told me that it was in when he entered, like after I had left. When I had left there, it was not in the state that it was in when he entered. And unfortunately, it all falls on my shoulders.
Your Honor, I just want to say, with him intentionally living with someone who has a drug habit and currently that's his living situation, I think that's a bad indicator of what's really going on with him, especially since I'm still hearing a lot of not my fault stuff.
Yeah, that's the way I got it. I didn't get any acceptance of
And
responsibility
that's it.
to methamphetamine. It's like, hey, why is everybody picking on me? And oh, by the way, I want to go live with someone who has an open warrant out for their arrest. Now, I agree with Deborah. Inpatient seems like the ticket, but according to Stoney, he's not eligible for inpatient until he does the outpatient. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor. That is
Can you
more of
arrange
a,
for, Stoney, is it possible to do the outpatient from the jail, or how do they do do they have to go in person?
the outpatient treatment can be done at the jail, yes.
Can be done at the jail?
It can be, yes. It could be, yes.
I would suggest a lengthier sentence, have him sit in jail, see how good he's doing with outpatient, and allow him to be released to an inpatient if he's eligible. That way it keeps society safe and it helps him dry out.
Well, I'm being asked to do a deferred probation after he just absolutely bombed an earlier deferred probation. Did none of the requirements, didn't pay 1 cent, didn't report, didn't do the treatment. And he blames it all on a mix-up over his eviction. But A, he got evicted because his landlord wanted him out of there. And then, I'm not sure what happened, but his other place was we used to have this theory that the worst we could do is fail, but now with the change in the probation violation rules, I don't have as much discretion to just simply terminate the probation. I'm gonna do 7411 probation for 24 months. Defendant has 14 days jail credit. I'm gonna order 90 days jail credit 14. Of the 90 days, 50 are deferred, which means he's got about 36 more days. Let me see, 26 more days to add to 40 days to do in jail. Shall have approved residence. Shall do substance abuse counseling and treatment at VA as directed. No drugs, no alcohol, abstain from all tests as directed. I'm gonna waive the fine, $75.50. I'm gonna waive the attorney fee, although Lord knows Mr. George has done a lot of work in this case. I'm gonna do a $960 probation oversight fee. $1,235. Due in 1 year, which would save you $480. You're gonna do some more time in jail, and Daniels and Stoney are gonna see if they can set up the outpatient while you're in custody. Then perhaps do an inpatient. The underlying problem you have is methamphetamine addiction. Or I had some concerns about opioids. There were some very bad things that happened with some people you were connected with in the past 2 years. I'm not sure what it is we're struggling with, but you need to look at the eye. So Daniel will have discretion about where you're gonna go when you're released, but you're not gonna go to a house where someone has an open drug warrant for their arrest. And Daniel will be contacting you, and probably Stoney as well, to set that up.
And make sure the second you get out of jail, you call me.
Well, hopefully you'll be on top of that, because when he gets out, you'll have arrangements for him to be somewhere. All right, Matthew, you're good to go. That takes care of all 3 of your cases.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Stoney is still here with us. Ms. Searcy, good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
I don't have you on my docket for this morning. Let's take a look.
I think she's on for 11, Your Honor.
She is? She's not on my docket, but you're here and she's here, so let's see what.
She's on ours, Your Honor.
Huh.
Looks like a sentencing screening.
That's right. I think this is
Yeah.
probably going to talk about sobriety court is what we're going to do.
Yes. Well, I don't disbelieve you, but it isn't on my docket. I know, Miss Searcy. I've been trying to get her into sobriety court. Let's see here. Yes, it's set for May 10th. Let's see if she's in on base. She's not on my regular calendar. No. Somehow we missed Constance Searcy for this morning, and I don't even have anything on it. She is set for today, so Sam, could you help me out with that, or Sarah, or Jenny, or somebody? Miss Searcy will come back to you here in a bit.
No problem.
Who has
That's fine,
Mandy Allen?
What?
Mandy Allen represented today?
Well, I don't know. She's here, and I got her in the waiting room. There's an open warrant for her arrest. I didn't recognize your new clean-shaven visage.
That's right.
Like your male modeling contract has come back up. Let's start with Mandy Allen and see what we got going on here. This is file 21788OT. Is that you, Mandy?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
This is a driving suspended charge. You have a warrant out for illegal entry where I directed you to turn yourself in, and you didn't. Don't go, come back. And then you have a warrant for your arrest in LaGrange County. You're pending extradition there. And Mr. Timothy Reed, the Sturgis City Attorney, is here. You were set for plea and sentencing today on a charge of driving suspended. Mr. Reed had recommended time served. Driving suspended is a misdemeanor. It's punishable by up to 93 days in jail and a fine of up to $500. Are you going to plead to that driving suspended charge?
Yes, sir.
Did anyone threaten you to get you to plead to that?
No.
promise you anything?
Oh, sure.
Got a lot of noise in jail. Where were you going that day?
I was just coming back from the store.
Was your license suspended?
Yes, sir.
Thought that was the guy from a different case.
All right, now, I directed you to turn yourself in your other case, the illegal entry case, which is 201948.
Okay.
Right, and
Here. What?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't because of my warrant in LaGrange. I was worried about that.
I don't have any.
Not gonna lie about it, but I just recently bonded out of LaGrange for $1,200, and I got court there in June. So getting that settled and taken care of.
Well, you still gotta turn yourself in.
Okay.
0 fine. 2 days, well, he recommended time served, which was 1 day jail credit, 1 day. Oh. Well, it's not an on base, so I don't have access to any of the stuff. Okay, $75 crime victims' rights fee, $50 state minimum fee, $125. Payment is due by May 28th. And there's a warrant for your arrest, and I want you to turn yourself in at the jail so I can arraign you on that charge.
Okay.
The LaGrange thing came up before that did. I tried to look at it to figure out why you didn't get picked up on that warrant also. But yeah, you've got an open warrant in LaGrange. My suggestion would be you waive extradition and go down there and take care of it. But
I already have done that, sir.
what?
I've already done that. I've just bonded out of LaGrange for $1,200.
Oh, I see you went down there and bonded out. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you got this other case you got to deal with, the illegal entry here. But
Yep.
that takes care of this traffic matter.
Okay.
All right. They'll be
Thanks,
ready
Doug.
for you. Chill. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, now we've got several other cases to do. We've got Josh Salter with Knopfinger. We got Mitchell Selman. We got Kayla Smith. I want to do Kayla Smith because she needs to have lunch. And
Your Honor,
Kiefer, yes?
if you refresh your on-base queue, you should see Miss Searcy's.
All right.
Is there any
It
chance
got
that could get forwarded to me, Your Honor, so I could review it?
You didn't
Yes.
get your email?
I don't have anything in the file.
All right, I'll double check with Priscilla.
It got set for May 10th, 2022. So I'm not sure what happened, but it didn't get on any docket for today. And I'm refreshing it, it isn't there yet, but we'll get to it. Kayla Smith is in custody on a charge of use of a controlled substance. She pled guilty without benefit of an attorney, and she came for sentencing, and she acknowledged that she would be positive for methamphetamine at the time she was there for the plea. So I canceled her bond, and she's in custody. She's been in there now for, I think, let's take a look, 7 days, but maybe that didn't count a day. 7 days plus 1 at the front end, which is 8. I asked Autumn for a pre-sentence report, which we had trouble getting because Ms. Salter didn't show up when she was supposed to show up for anything, which is part of why I canceled her bond. Kayla, you waived, or you entered a plea without benefit of an attorney, and I went through the advice of rights with you. Even now, if you ask me to appoint an attorney to assist you, I can do that. All you gotta do is tell me, otherwise we're gonna proceed with the sentence.
Yes, isn't Luke my attorney?
I do represent Kayla Smith, Your Honor.
All right. Luke, I'm not sure, there it is. Luke. Yes, Luke, okay, good. Luke was present at that hearing where I canceled your bond. He and Autumn have discussed this. Luke, I'll start with you. Frankly, Autumn and I were exchanging this morning. I don't know what to do here. Kayla has a difficult background. She was very non-compliant while she was on bond. She's struggling. I think her boyfriend has some addiction issues also. I just don't know what to do here. So I'm open to suggestion.
No longer my boyfriend, Your Honor.
All right, well, let's hear from Luke first. Go ahead and give you a chance to speak.
Thank you, Your Honor. I did receive the PSI, and I spoke to Kayla about it. I think that maybe the most important paragraph in the PSI is Kayla's underlying mental health condition, and that she has in the past been engaged with the community mental health in Kalamazoo. She intends to live with her mother, who can employ her, who has helped her to take steps to get her license back. I think that the mental health piece is just as important, maybe not more important than the substance abuse. And what she tells me is Dr. Richardson, who she's been working with at the Kalamazoo CMH, is considering both of those factors. I stressed this to Kayla. She understands this, that I think that is really important. She also wants to have her probation. We talked about the recommendation. We'd asked the court to adopt the recommendation, but she wants to have it transferred to Kalamazoo County. She wants to live in Kalamazoo County. Her mother is supportive of her. I don't know what to say. I knowing that she has mental health issues and knowing that there's substance abuse, I don't think that a prolonged jail stay is important. I do think that supervision on probation is important. She needs to get re-engaged with Kalamazoo CMH. She needs to go there. She's told me that, and I'm not too comfortable talking too much about, her mental health treatment, but things have changed recently as to that. She needs to get prescribed the proper medication, and she needs to stay sober. So we talked about the recommendation. We would ask the court to adopt it.
Debbie, what's your thought here?
Well, Your Honor, again, I'll reiterate, I'm appreciative that she was honest when you asked her whether she would test positive or not. That's hard to admit to when you're in the throes of addiction, and she seemed genuinely remorseful about her behaviors. Reading the PSI, she certainly has a significantly traumatic past and probably lacks self-esteem based on what I'm reading. I don't know about this boyfriend that she says she doesn't have anymore, but it looks like there was a kind of co-occurring use with each other. So if he's not in her life, that's probably a good thing. A little concerned about—
That's why he's not in my life, Your Honor, is because of the situation that I'm in now, and trying to push forward to better.
I wish I could give you a Kleenex to help, but I can't reach out to you, so
that
we'll let
is a
Debbie
positive.
finish, and then Autumn, and then you.
She started using at a young age, which is concerning, and the significant amount of drugs, different types of drugs that she's using, could be just because of her co-occurring mental health. And it's a positive that she has sought mental health treatment, But again, you have to engage in that and benefit from it, not just attend. A little concerned about her going back to stay with her mom because it sounds like that was where she was staying during a lot of the last.
I'm not sure whether her mom's gonna accept her back, but her mom has been there for her and then burn a bridge and then come back and burn a bridge, just like often has with our addicted defendants. They're like a bull in a china shop and they tear up their family.
I would think that maybe a little more drying out time in jail might help, and then the probation department could make sure that she has a place to go after she's released from the jail component. I don't necessarily think it's a barrier to have Autumn continue to be her PO, even if she's living in the Galesburg area, with everything being virtual and it not being that far of a distance. I would rather keep her, if she's going to be on probation instead of just a straight jail term, I would appreciate it being in our county so that we have more oversight. If the testing is in Kalamazoo, that's fine. Definitely testing should be a part of this probation though, considering her use while she was still on bond. So I'd ask the court to take that into consideration today.
Autumn, what's your thought here?
So misdemeanor probations are not transferable from county to county. So that does not occur at all. Felonies are the only ones that can do that. As
Or
Ms. Davis,
sobriety court.
correct. So as Ms. Davis stated, she would continue to be in this county and supervised. I did see Ms. Smith last Tuesday. So I find it very difficult and hard to believe that after her being in jail for 8 days, that now all of a sudden from Tuesday, I'm being told that they're going to get sober together and they're going to help each other, that now they're no longer together. Tuesday, I do believe that Ms. Smith was withdrawing from methamphetamine. She was very fidgety, couldn't sit still. She just told me she didn't like being in jail. This isn't my first day. So she has a serious drug addiction. The fact that she tells me she's been with CMH and has a doctor and a therapist in Kalamazoo, however, she hadn't seen anyone since the beginning of April and there was no date set. I'm not too sure, and taking her word into account that she hasn't seen them for much longer. So I'm not sure that the CMH is a current. She doesn't have a driver's license, wanted to tell me that she has a permit only, that family has a cottage as it states in the PSI up in Traverse City. She was going to get Secretary of State appointment. Is she telling me what I want to hear so she can get out of jail? Absolutely. So with the legislation being changed and the issues for having technical violations and trying to get someone violated off of a probation, I have a feeling that if a probation may be necessary. Is it going to work? I don't believe so at all. Your Honor and I spoke earlier this morning. She does have 9 days credit, 8 days now, 1 on the front. If she's placed on probation, I'll do what I can, but I'm not going to pull people across the finish line. She's going to have to do the work. She's going to have to pull her end of the bargain. You know, I tried to get a hold of her for the PSI. She didn't answer. Then she shows up here automatically. You know, I did verify the general delivery address that she gave me for the post office, since I had never heard of that. That is, I guess, an accurate thing that does occur at post offices, but it's only a temporary. So I'm unsure as to why she couldn't get mail at her mother's, if that's family and that's the correct address. She did say her mom did bring her here last Monday. So her mom may be help. Maybe she is going to try. I don't know. I'm quite on the fence with Ms. Smith. I, however, do agree that if she is placed on a probation, that she may be sit a little longer to get dried out. I could find testing for her in Kalamazoo. She would have to pay for that. So she'd have to get some fast employment to have some cash. And she would most definitely have to get signed up with CMH immediately upon her release. Because otherwise, this won't work.
Kayla, I didn't get much of a chance to talk with you when you came in. First of all, we didn't expect you were going to show up because you hadn't made any contact with your probation agent. And then there you were. And then, to your credit, you acknowledged using meth. I don't know you, so Autumn, we see lots and lots of people that struggle with methamphetamine, and Autumn felt you were still in those straights. Now you've been in jail a week. What would you like me to know?
I don't know, like, I had an appointment today on May 10th to go to the Secretary of State to get my license. I have a permit. With my stimulus money, my mom, she bought me a car. I have my permit, so we were in the process of getting my license, and that's the only reason my mother hadn't admitted me into her business yet, was because for her business you have to drive, and because I could not legally drive is the only reason I didn't have like no employment. I did not have a boyfriend last week when me and her were talking. It was an ex-boyfriend who I was telling her had first got me started off on methamphetamine.
I don't want to. That boyfriend.
So when you get to my mother's house, it will be at my mother's house. I will have my mother's support for all. She will be taking me to and from my doctor's appointments like she has before, until I can get my license, until I can go to my doctors on my own again. My doctor is Kalamazoo Community Integrated Services. What they do is they work with me for my mental health and substance use. That's what the doctor specializes in. It's a doctor who has patients with substance abuse and mental health problems, and then she correlates their treatment plan to come off of the substance use while still helping their mental. And the only reason I'm not going to her right now is because we wanted a clean start. But I did have an appointment after my appointment for Secretary of State. I did have an appointment to go back for inpatient and outpatient therapy and treatment at my doctor's office. She took me off of all my meds, and she took me off of everything about a month and a half ago, so I could get clean. When this case had already started, I was already in the process of getting clean. That's why she took me off of all my meds, was so I could get a clean start for everything. I'm trying, Your Honor. I'm trying, I really am. My mother is the only person I have. She has disowned me before in the past, and she knows that I'm trying now is the only reason she's here to help me today, because she knows I'm really trying to. I've been completely cut off, completely disowned from my mother before. No phone call ever would get answered. But she brought me to my court appointment last week. And the one I had a month prior, because she knows I'm actually trying. That's why she took my stimulus money and got a car for me. That's why she was supposed to be taking me to my Secretary of State appointment. Your Honor, I'm trying. I don't know what to say other than that. I'm trying. I've been trying.
You're doing the best you can. You're sincere. Maya, and like so many of our people, you've got childhood trauma that's carrying you around into your adult life, and that's not your fault. I wish I could wave my magic wand and make it not so, but many young women I talk to have the same trauma that you're dealing with.
I had a boyfriend when I was younger. He used to hotshot me and sell my body. And that is why I became hooked on drugs in the first place.
I don't need to go into that here, but I am aware of it. You've got a good plan, and I'm going to get off your back, but you got to get some clean time. I'm not going to do a probation. I'm going to do 39 days jail, credit 9 days. Leaving 30 days to serve minus good time. You're going to waive all your fines and costs, and I'm not going to suspend your license. When you're out, all the things that you said you want to do, you can do them. I won't be hanging over your head. I won't be trying to collect any money. I won't be supervising your probation or testing you. It'll be on you. You can go back to Galesburg and do all the things that you said you wanted to do without me breathing down your neck. So,
but I wouldn't mind you breathing down my neck because it would actually help me to get straight. It would help me to get that push that I need to get.
I'm not going down that path. It's on you. All right, good luck. 39 days, credit 9, no fine and costs. If she wants to do it, she can do it. All right, Mr. Salter has been waiting, and Ms. Searcy has been waiting. And Ms. Searcy, what happened is somehow your case got scheduled for May 10th of 2022. So let me finish Mr. Salter, and then we'll come back to yours. We also have Mr. Salmon, who's supposed to be here, Mr. George's client, and he's not here. Mr. George, have you had any contact from Mr. Salmon? Well, we'll address that. Mr. Knopfinger is here, and Mr. Salter is here, and Stoney Summey has input on this case as well.
Your Honor, actually, I have input on the Mr. Solomon case, not Salter.
Oh, you're on Solomon, not Salter. All right, well, Tim, what can you tell us about Mr. Solomon? I get my cases mixed up.
I think he left.
He's still on the feed.
Oh. There he is.
No luck with a phone call. Mr. George, what do you know about Mr. Solomon?
Your Honor, we sent notice. We haven't had any issue getting in contact with him before. I did try to reach him this morning and went to a voicemail that was not set up. So I'm a little surprised that he's not here, but I haven't heard any update.
Well, I'm going to do a bench warrant, but I have to wait 48 hours.
Your Honor, I also tried to make contact with Mr. Solomon as well. I'm not sure, and I've always had luck getting a hold of him anytime I've ever tried, so I'm a little concerned. Maybe there may be some issue with his phone because that's not normal. Normally I can leave a message now.
Mr. Summey also has been attempting to reach him. I tried to reach him. You tried to reach him. He's got 48 hours to present himself before the warrant issues.
And Your Honor, I'm able to make contact with the court in advance if the 48 hours hasn't expired.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Summey, you're good to go, and Mr. George, I guess you're good to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Stoney.
Anytime.
All right, now we'll all know about that case. Let's do Josh Salter. This is a couple of cases. This is a use of methamphetamine and a larceny, and then a separate larceny. One involved a larceny of a ring, and the other involves some credit cards or some other items. Mr. Luke Knopfinger is here for the defendant. Mr. Salter is present. Luke, what would you like me to know?
Well, a couple things, Your Honor, and I would I would note that there is a pending domestic violence case involving one of the witnesses in the case who is a family member. So I want to be a little cautious as to anything I say or Mr. Salter says. I'd ask the court to consider, I believe it has received the police reports. The date of these incidents was spring of last year. Mr. Salter, as reported in the police reports, was pretty open and honest that his activities were driven by drug addiction. I'd ask the court to consider the time from then up until now where I think he's focused on that. His addiction, he's been able to stay out of trouble, so to speak. And he was very compliant. He made admissions in these cases. I'd ask the court to consider a term of probation, especially given the fact that that these acts occurred some time ago, roughly about a year ago. I think a term of probation would be appropriate. Thank you, Your Honor.
Deborah, what's your thought here?
Your Honor, I agree that based on the nature of the case, how long it's been, the fact there's been no further issues with him while he's been on bond that we're aware of, and that the items have been returned, perhaps a term of probation would be appropriate so that he doesn't lose his employment that he gained during this period of time waiting for the case to resolve. We did speak through our victims advocate unit with the Sturgis Hospital, and they requested $50 in restitution for the items that were taken from the Sturgis ER during the one larceny. So we would ask that that be issued to them, and a term of probation would help make sure that that gets paid. Certainly, with substance abuse being an issue, we would ask that there be testing as part of his probation, just to ensure that there's no slip-ups or issues that come about during the term of probation. Other than that, I'd leave it to the court's discretion. Thank you.
Mr. Salter, let's talk about the drugs you stole from the hospital. Fortunately, you didn't inject any of that stuff in yourself. You didn't even know what it was. No. And so who knows what would have happened if you'd used any of this stuff. You had a smorgasbord of different drugs. And it occurred in April of 2020. Where are you working now?
Oh, currently right now I'm at Utility Master in Indiana.
That's what you told me. So you're still there?
Yes.
Are you still on Marcellus Road?
Yes, sir.
Now, you managed to come up with 2 surety bonds, which was quite a bit of money. You only spent 1 day in jail for this. Where did you get the money to bond out? Did somebody help you with this?
Well, actually, when you're not doing drugs, I've been working since December, and I just really kind of just been saving my money. So I had about $800 in the bank.
Or in that case, or 1 day credit, 1 day. I'll do the restitution.
And I was 7 days. I was 7 days in health guard while I was waiting.
All right. You got picked up in Elkhart County before you got brought here?
Yes.
All right, we'll deal with that in the other case. 125, due by May 28. Now the other one's ugly. Well, they're both ugly, but it involves methamphetamine, pawning your grandmother's ring, an $800 ring for $75, $78. You were like a man out of control.
Your Honor, did you add the restitution for Sturgis Hospital in that last one?
I'm gonna do it in the next case.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
I didn't put him on probation in that case. I just did time served. What were you in jail in Indiana for?
Oh, the cops the cops showed up for a neighbor in the trailer park that my mom lived in, and I was there as a witness. But when they ran my name and I had the warrants up in Michigan, I didn't get in any trouble in Elkhart.
All right. On the larceny charge for the ring, I'm going to do 8 days credit, 8 days concurrent with the use of meth. 0 fine and cost. Was the ring ever recovered?
They have to, yeah, they just have to go get it, but they just haven't yet. We just noticed in the police report that it said that they could.
All right. In the methamphetamine case, is he eligible for 7411?
He is not. It looks like actually he has an open warrant from 2017 in Indiana for a methamphetamine case.
That's what I thought. But he was in Indiana and apparently didn't deal with it, so that may not be accurate.
Yeah, I don't believe that's accurate.
The last thing on the ROA that they have on the Indiana courts is that the bond was forfeited, and then that's it. There's a warrant, so I'm not sure why.
What county is that?
That was in Elkhart County.
No. So we're going to do a attempt at probation. Going to resolve the Elkhart County case. Restitution of $50 to Sturgis Hospital. And the ring, as I understand it, was worth $850. What do you know about that, Debbie?
The ring was retrieved by the victims from the pawn shop, so I believe that they got that back in the.
That was $80.
So
What
yes,
about the laptop?
That was returned according to the victims. They were not requesting any restitution.
All right, $80 to Alma Salter. $74.11 probation for 12 months.
Your Honor, Mr. Salter is not eligible.
Oh yeah, that's right. I got to cross that out. We just discussed that, so I've got to take it off the form. 12-month probation, 98 days credit, 8 of the 98 days, 90 are deferred. I got some reservations about this. One of the things you have to do is resolve your Elkhart County warrant. Fine is 0. $75 crime victims' rights fee, $50 state minimum fee, and $150 attorney fee. And probation oversight of $480 plus 50 plus 80. So let's add that up. 75 plus 50 plus 150 attorney fee plus 480 probation oversight fee plus 50 plus 80 in restitution is 885. 2 and 1 year. You're going to do substance abuse counseling and treatment as directed, testing as directed, no drugs and no alcohol. This is one of 2 warrants, judgments. Mr. Salter, when's the last time you used any methamphetamine?
It's been 1 year.
Well, that's a start. We'll get a testing, get some baseline.
Okay.
To test as directed. Is your number still end in 9078?
Yes, sir.
It's very close to my number. You ever get any calls for me?
I might. I get a lot of calls I don't recognize.
All right, the probation department is going to be contacting you. You seem better. You were like a man out of control when you were stealing and pawning this stuff. You're now working. I'll take you at your word. You've been clean for a while. That's a good start. We're going to find out what's the deal with this Elkhart warrant. And I no longer have to suspend your license. And that's a plus. You may work in Indiana. All right, Mr. Salter, you're free to go.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Luke. Let's get this back in order. Miss Searcy, let me get your file up here. Deborah, I apologize to you as well. Let's try to refresh this again. Autumn, I'll try a custom query and see if I can get into it that way.
I do see it in your hearing queue if you can't see it.
I can't get it to refresh. So I got it. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. The sheet says set May 10th, 2021. Somebody input it for the wrong year, and here we are. So, you told me pretty straightforward about what you were doing when you got arrested on this case. Mr. Bush, what would you like me to know?
I suggest this would be a good case for sobriety court. I'm told that she's had her assessment. I don't know if Ms. Kiefer has received it or the court's received it yet, but she told me she's done that. She has third shift job, which, assuming she can keep transportation, would dovetail in pretty well with the services you're likely to order. Most of her criminal record is driving suspended. If you actually look at it, this is the second drinking and driving. So I would ask the court, assuming we can get all the ducks in order, to put her in the sobriety court program.
Do you have any input on that?
Well, Your Honor, these cases are difficult when there's a personal injury accident, but it's not a victim crime for the statute. So we don't get the input from the driver of the other vehicle that was not at fault and that Ms. Searcy crashed into. I do want to point out that in the report from Ms. Kiefer, it appears that Ms. Searcy admits that the last time she consumed alcohol was on New Year's Eve, which would have been after this accident occurred while she was on bond, which is concerning. And the amount of alcohol in her system is also very concerning. The blood draw was done, let's see, approximately 2 hours after the accident, and it came back as a 0.201, which is a very high blood alcohol. And if it were going down because she had consumed alcohol prior to the accident, it may have been a bit higher during the time that this accident actually occurred. So the criminal history that she has is not super serious, I guess I'll say, but she would continue driving when she didn't have a license. And if she's working in Battle Creek, assuming she still doesn't have a license, I don't know how she's getting back and forth for a third shift job, or if that's going to be still something that she can do. Obviously, the motivation is that she wants to keep her job, but is that going to cause her to make a poor decision to drive when she's not supposed to be driving? And again, put people at risk, and again, drink when she's not supposed to be drinking alcohol. There was also some use of marijuana that she admitted prior to this accident. So I would leave it to the court's discretion, but I believe that there should be a bit of jail time based on the fact that this was an extremely high blood alcohol. It's close in time to her previous OWI, which was pled down to an impaired, and there was an admission of drinking alcohol between when the accident occurred and when she's here today. So I think she's got a significant problem. Thank you.
Autumn, what's your thought here?
Well, Ms. Searcy did complete her assessment from CMH on May 6th. The court does have that on record and on file. She was diagnosed with alcohol use disorder severe, and the therapist that conducted that assessment did state she would be a candidate for sobriety court. When I did go over this screening with Ms. Searcy, we discussed sobriety court. She gave me her interest and expressed her interest in completing the sobriety court program. She understands everything that is going to be required of her. She states that she will be able to get everywhere. When I did discuss with her the validity of her license, she states to me that it was expired, not totally suspended. However, looking at her driving record, it does show suspension terminations. So I advised Ms. Searcy that I won't be able to tell her if she would be eligible for an interlock through the sobriety court until she is sentenced in this case. That way I can look into it after this case, this charge does post to her record. I am willing to put Ms. Searcy into the sobriety court program. There again, like every other probation, she has to pull her end of the bargain. She understands what she needs to do. She does live locally, so getting to testing will not be an issue for her. Getting to either online or in-person 12-step meetings, again, won't be a problem. And her CMH will be there at CMH located at the DRC facility. The only question I do have that I concur with Ms. Davis is how she's getting back and forth to work. Ms. Searcy does need to understand that if she is placed in the sobriety court program, no driving of any kind is allowed, obviously now, but even more so within the program. And I do feel that more jail is warranted in the case, obviously, as well. So that is why I recommended that 4 days be scheduled on weekends, so not to interfere with Ms. Searcy's employment.
All right, Ms. Searcy, before I talk to you, I figure out who this is. K51, you just logged in. Which case are you here on? What's your name? Well, we'll figure her out later. She's smoking a cigarette and she's at 5 to 12. I'm not even sure why she's here. But Constance, we've talked about this more than once. I've known you since you were about high school, and I keep telling you this. I graduated from high school with your dad. I went from kindergarten with your aunt, know your mom. Knew your grandma quite well, and I know you, and you are an angry young girl. You're not as young as you are, but I think you're still angry. You got 21 driving suspended. There are other no ops charges on your record. And you almost killed somebody at the intersection of Wilbur Road and 131 with a .201 blood alcohol level. Not to mention you almost killed yourself. As you grew up in Three Rivers, you know how dangerous that intersection is. There have been multiple fatal accidents there. And you were coming down from Kalamazoo after drinking vodka like an unguided missile. I'm also concerned about how you get to work in Battle Creek every day. How do you get to your job?
Up until before I was driving, but I've got a friend named Becca who lives in Schoolcraft, and so my mom takes me and meets her, and then she just brings me home in the morning for gas.
All right. What do you think about going in our sobriety court program?
I think it would be beneficial from the things that me and Kristen talked about. I know there's a lot of counseling also involved, and I believe that that's mainly what I need just to deal with a lot of issues that I have that probably lead to the drinking, as using that as a coping mechanism. I did drink on New Year's. At that point, I wasn't on bond yet. I hadn't received the stuff from that. But ever since I've been on bond and everything else, I've been sober. I talked with Amber and also Kristen about that. I mean, I take full responsibility. I know that I was completely in the wrong. And like you said, I definitely could have not only injured myself, but someone else. And I take full responsibility for that. And I definitely know that I have a problem and that I do need some help.
I'm trying to remember, what was this plea to?
It was OWI high BAC, right?
Okay, so 180-day max. I'm going to follow Autumn's recommendation. I'm going to do 24-month probation, 120 days jail, credit 1, leaving 119 days to serve. Of the 120, 115 are deferred, and I have 2 weekends to do, which is going to be scheduled by the probation department. $300 fine, $75 crime victims' rights fee, $50 state minimum fee, a $100 screening fee, $150 attorney fee, $960 probation oversight fee, but we expect that you'll be done sooner than that. How much was the police reimbursement again, Autumn? I closed that page.
Let me get back to that. $200.
And I'm going to order sobriety court. Our first session will be tomorrow. We've got a real good group of people in there right now, and they're very supportive of each other, and they're really making big changes in their lives. I'd like to see you go down that same path. I don't like seeing you like this. I would not have liked reading in the paper that you were killed in an accident at 131 Wilbur Road. For your mom, I probably would have gone to your funeral. I'm glad I didn't do that. $1,835. That's due in 1 year.
She has a significant cash bond, Your Honor.
What's that?
I believe she has a significant cash bond.
All right, let's see what we got here, John. Thank you. $800 cash bond. That reduces it to $1,035. No drugs, no alcohol, testing as directed. and sobriety court. Our very first session is tomorrow. And everything is virtual, Constance. It's a lot easier than it was when people had to come in. At some point, we'll probably be returning to real sessions. We have just one session. It's every other Tuesday at 2:30. And I think you're going to benefit from getting to know some of the people in this program. And we'll try something different. If you've been sober since New Year's Eve, that's a real good head start on getting yourself situated. I apologize, John and Debbie, for the mix-up regarding the date. We all have a bar meeting that starts 1 minute ago, so we'll see you on that juncture. Constance, Autumn will be contacting you, but I will see you tomorrow at sobriety court at 2:30. She'll give you instructions about that. You'll log into the same number you did here. This is during your sleep time right now?
Yes, it's fine though.
All right, well, go get some rest, but I'll see you tomorrow at 2:30.
I'm gonna call you right now, Constance.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, well, finish this. I gotta shut this off so I can go to the noon meeting. I love noon meetings. I have about 4 a week. Constance, I'll see you tomorrow. All right, well,